A little bit different style video this time. Not a travel vlog with my Austin A30 from 1955, but we're going to make something. We're going to make a camera housing for a security camera, which I bought really cheap at The Action, which is a store here in Holland. Well, I have all the parts here ready on my workbench. Let's have a look. This is most of the parts we need to build the Wi-Fi camera housing. We have a memory card, we have a Wi-Fi camera, and we have some drainage parts. This is an end cap and this is screw type end cap. But we need some other things. We also need some plexiglass, and we'll cut a piece out. And we also need some 3D printed parts, which are printing now. Parts are ready, let's pop them off the plate. So we end up with these parts. We have a base plate, we have a nut that goes on the base plate, and then this ball mount, which attaches to the wall, can snap into there. We also have a little cap to keep rain and sunshine out of the lens. So next, let's open up the Wi-Fi camera. So what do we get? We get power brick, a nice little cord, and the camera. And we're not going to use this mount, so that has to come off. And we can use this little screw in here to take the mount off. So if we grab a screwdriver, we can just undo the screw. Which is a nice little screw, and take the standard mount off. We won't be using that. This already fits quite nicely inside the drainage parts. So to make our little drainage pipe parts into a housing for the camera, we first need some polycarbonate for the window. Get the pen and we'll mark around the 3D print. Now we can check if it fits, which it doesn't, so some alterations are needed. Oh, now it fits! So the camera does not fit in there properly. We need to remove some material from the side of the housing. So to do so, first measure the inside with whatever measuring method you prefer, and then we'll cut the drainage parts. First we'll be removing that material from the side so that the bottom half can slide in all the way. So I've drawn some dots, and now I'm going to join them up using a little flexible ruler. Like so. Now we can cut the part using a hand saw or an electric saw, whatever you prefer. I'm going to use a hand saw. Because I used a hand saw, I need to clean up my part on the belt sander. So with that part ready, we need to alter the bottom part, because when I slide it in, we can see it does not fit inside properly, and it's still too deep, obviously. Now, if we assemble the housing, we should find that the camera fits in there nicely. And it needs to be that one. Yes. With the hole saw mounted, we can drill the hole. But first we need to find the center. Luckily there's a little mark on the inside. We can use a little drill to find it and transfer it to the other side. And because the hole is slightly tinier, we can glue our window to this lip. So now we have all our parts. This is everything we need. Now focus our attention on the lead. Because there's so little room inside the housing, we need to strip this down. I'll show you. When we insert it inside the camera, it protrudes, and when we try to fit it in the housing, it does not fit. So we need to cut that off. So I take a sharp knife and I cut along the cable to make it smaller and to fit it inside the housing. This has to be done very carefully as to not damage the cable, although we can potentially pull it all back and solder the cable directly on the connector if that is necessary. I think that will do the trick. It's not pretty, but it will do the trick. Put it in. Looks like it's going to fit. But we need to test it, of course, because I got awfully close to the leads. Moment of truth. Let's see if our little custom plug still works. Yay! It still works! While we wait for the hot glue gun to heat up, we can start by drilling some holes in the rear of our housing. The holes will need to line up with the 3D printed mount, like so. I'll just use a marker to transfer the holes, and then we can drill them. Now we can secure it with some 3mm bolts, millimeter that is. That's not the mil imperial. I will use countersunk screws that won't interfere with the camera, but then we need to countersink these holes too. But first, the hot glue gun is hot, so we can start gluing in the little window. These have all been sanded. Make sure which side it is. And it doesn't really have to be pretty, because it will be covered up by this ring. Here goes. And then it's nicely glued. we can now start cleaning up the inside. You can just simply cut along the edge and then pick the inside out, and it cleans up the edge nicely. Okay, with the window cleaned up again, we can start on the other side of our camera housing. Like I said, we need to countersink these holes and then fit the mount that can be 3D printed. Files can be found in the description. We can cut the remaining length with some snips. Or, if you don't have one, you could also use a hacksaw. With the bolts snipped, now simply glue on this part, and we'll use PVC glue because that works like a charm. Now we only need to drill a little hole for the cable, but that orientation really depends on how you want the mount to be oriented. You probably guessed it, we are on the home stretch for our camera housing. We just need to make a little hole for our cable, fit our camera, and do not forget to insert the memory card, because that will be a lot easier to do now. First, measure the little cable. What you could do is drill an oversized hole and make a little gland to protect the water from coming in, or drill it really tight and then insert it that way and make a seal with some hot glue. I'll do the hot glue option. First, I see that the cable is 3 millimeters, so I'll get a 3 millimeter drill out. With drilling our hole, we need to make sure that the camera is oriented correctly. The mount will mount to the wall like this, so when we insert the camera and we want the cable to run this way, to move over and come out right there, we will drill the hole there. It's not very accurate, but I will drill it in between here. Of course, needs to fit through, so we need to cut the cable, and now we'll solder it back once it's inserted in the hole. I will cut it somewhat from the connector so I can easily splice it and solder it back together again. Like I said, now is the time to insert the little memory card. That is a nice fit. So, lastly, screw the cap on. And the very last step, because we now know how the camera is oriented, to glue our little eyebrow on. There we go. And I'll use a little bit of CA glue. I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.